Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Face Your Ears podcast. My name is Justin Hochella, and I am joined by Rich Bozic. Hey, Rich,
Hello.
how's it going?
A little frantic this morning, but getting it together.
We got here. We've arrived.
Yes. On this episode, we've gathered here today to give a little recap of the year and to think about the year to come.
Yes, it's our annual Face Your Year episode. So this is our second one that we've done. Is that right?
I think
Our
so.
second Face Your Year. So yeah, the whole point of this episode is for us to just reflect.
No.
What? No? Am I wrong?
Episode 7. Episode 7.
Oh.
Face Your Year. We just didn't label the
this
year
is
on
our
it.
third. Wow.
Yes.
This is our third Face Your Year. That's super. That's even more exciting. This is our third Face Your Year episode. And if this is your introduction to our podcast, welcome. We actually do this kind of episode at the end of every year just to reflect back and look at what we accomplished throughout the year, recognize the milestones, and just kind of have a good time, reflect back. So yeah. So Rich, what comes to mind for you as you look back on our episodes and think back on the different topics or guests that we had? Like what stands out for you?
The thing that comes to my mind right away is the complex studio setup episode, because I think there was so much more associated with that episode. It was a chance to come out and visit you in your home studio in Michigan and help you basically overhaul your whole setup. And what was cool about that was obviously being able to hang out with my buddy, but also seeing the inner workings of your studio and how you put that all together. Because I've been there before and I've seen all the equipment there, but you don't really think too much about, okay, how's it all hooked up?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you actually got to do surgery. And you were so pivotal and instrumental in the cable management and the intricacies and those details that sometimes can drive me nuts. But you just had such great patience and focus and a vision for all of that. So
it was a great opportunity to act upon my extreme OCD with that stuff.
Yeah.
And to be appreciated.
Yes, absolutely. It was absolutely appreciated. But it was so interesting, too, in that process of like how certain things just came to light that made it the perfect situation for a podcast. Things like how we came across certain issues with cables and like cable length and like how to organize them in a spreadsheet for planning, like all of these different things. That was really interesting. Just things we hadn't thought about before we dove into it, but then as we were in the process, we're like, oh wow, there's some things we could share with others to make this process easier.
Yeah, so that was the first one that stood out to me. How about you?
I was so excited for us to be able to finally announce our music production business, RJB Music Production. And we had our good friend Barack join us for that to really celebrate and announce RJB Music Production. And so it was just really cool to be able to talk about our sort of vision and purpose behind that and our different roles in it and why we were coming together to do that. And just to be able to formally announce that to the world was really, really exciting. So I loved being able to do that. That also makes me think about the episode with Josh D'Elia, aka my brother.
Yeah.
But just having people on the podcast was great. I think we did that this year, like with Barack and RJB Music Production,
Sure.
but then with Josh and him talking about Sleek Teeth, his new dark kind of EBM electronic outfit that he's in. And at that time, they had a single out, and it's just been really cool to see since we recorded that episode, the work that he's done and everything from being featured in different publications or like online publications to playing live to having their full EP released. It's been really cool to watch that.
I agree. Just to add on to what you were talking about, it was nice to hear what's going on in his neck of the woods with regard to doing shows and stuff. I always like to hear that kind of stuff. I think that's really cool. And
Absolutely.
with regard to you were talking about the other episode with RJB, that was really cool to be able to share that with people. I think what we do together, aside from the podcast, I'm so excited about all of that, and it was just great to share that with everyone. Moving forward, what do you see for the upcoming year for Face Your Ears? What kind of ideas do you have in mind?
One of the things I know I mentioned to you that I think would be really great is to talk about some resources that are out there to help people who may not have a solid grasp of like music theory or a really keen ability to play an instrument. And what's so amazing about today's landscape is there's so many great resources to help people. So there's one that I came across from a producer. Her name is Sides. She's awesome. She uses Logic Pro. She's like constantly sharing cool tips and tricks. And one of the things she shared that I think we should talk about is a website called Hook Theory. And this is amazing. Like I've actually tapped into this and it inspired me, but basically it just helps you get chord progressions or chord possibilities and just helps you get outside the box of your mind and try different things, but also hear what that would sound like, browse other songs that use the same chords. So it's just a really cool resource to get inspired. So that's one thing I would love to talk about. And then on top of that, there's another company called Vochlea. And what they do is they actually sell a product called Dubler. And what it does is it allows you to use a microphone that you can just sing or like even beatbox into. And that allows you to compose using like basically any instrument you want. So you can sing the part into your DAW and it will like be the trumpet part or the bass part or whatever. And so I think both of these different things fall under a larger umbrella of the really cool technological resources that are out there for people who might need some additional support or inspiration or whatever the case may be. So what's neat to me is that it works for people on any side of the spectrum. Whether you're brand new to music and you're just getting started, these tools can help you. But if you're super advanced, they can also be great tools to sort of inspire creativity and new ideas. So that's one of the things, like broadly speaking, like these sorts of tools that are out there. And I can't help but think about AI because like we also talked about AI this year. And like since we've talked about it, it's of course exploded even more.
Yeah.
And there's just really, frankly, insane things that you can do with AI now, especially when it comes to the voice and singing and harmonizing and things like that. It's wild. So I think that's something worth exploring and just talking about because it's a reality of the landscape that's out there today. So those are some of the things I've been thinking about. How about you?
Mine lie more in the actual way we put together the episodes. I want to dabble with more of the skit ideas.
Yes.
That we thrown into stuff.
Yes.
That was fun.
Which episode was that? Which
I think we had two. I
know it was the most recent one we did, the DIY home studio step up.
Yes.
Where you were like the angel. Yeah.
That
wild.
Yeah, that, and I think another one was the overcoming obstacles. I think might have been where we had to make a sacrifice in order to
yeah. Yes. So that we did both sides of the spectrum where we had an angel and then we had some sort of satanic cult or something. Whatever that was. That's right. I love that. Yeah, that's so fun.
So I would love to dabble with more of
Yeah.
those kind of things. I like the creative part of making these episodes. At least that revealed to me that I enjoy that part of things. So I wouldn't mind dabbling more in that. Other like content-wise for episodes, I wouldn't mind getting more into the kind of nuts and bolts of the process of releasing music, the ins and outs of that, talking about the different distributors, things like that.
Releasing music is such a mystery, right? I think until you actually delve into Google and start exploring that, it's really esoteric. Like, how does this work? Where do I start? So I think we could help our listeners just by demystifying that a little bit of, okay, you've got your song like literally mastered, ready to go. Sounds awesome. You've got media like pictures and Instagram posts and like you're doing all that stuff, but it's like, how do you actually get it on Spotify or Apple Music, etc.? So yeah,
that would be a good one. If any of our listeners have any ideas for episodes that they'd want us to try, please reach out, shoot us a message on Instagram or X.
Or email.
If you're that kind of old-fashioned dandy who wants to use email, by all means.
If you know us personally, you can just text us or call. That works too.
So we've discussed a little bit about what we liked this past year, episode-wise. We talked about a few things we hope for the upcoming year. What are 3 things that you yourself will do to move your recording / music making forward for this coming year?
Wow, that's a good one.
So I'll start. Okay,
Go.
So what I did was recently I've taken a deep dive into getting more organized, but on using digital tools to help with that. I'm old school. When I do my schedule for teaching, everything's handwritten. A few years back, I had a traumatic experience where I put everything into Google Calendar and then it all disappeared and it freaked me out. So it scared me back to the paper calendar. But I've been also keeping track of a lot of things using the Notepad app on my phone. But I found that making lists in that app it was just too much.
Clutter, it gets cluttered.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to manage.
Yes. So then I was like, you know what? There's this reminders app, and I use it every once in a while to remind me to take a vitamin or whatever or something like that. So I'm like, why can't I use this to help me organize what I do as a musician? So I did a deep dive. I watched some videos on how to use it properly and all the deeper possibilities within it. And so that got me on fire to get my house even more in order with regard to keeping track of things, setting more deadlines, and squaring things away. Because there are a lot of things on the list. There are a lot of things I want to accomplish, and sometimes there's just too much going on, and there are things I forget. So there we go. That's my first one. How about you? Do you have a first?
So I've been slowly working my way through a course about, this is meta, but it's a course about how to create a course. And so I've been dabbling in that and thinking about how I could create a course focused on Logic Pro. And I've been taking my time with it, and I'm glad I have been, because I think there's certain things as I've been just doing day-to-day work in the studio that I realized, like, oh, you know what, this area of Logic would be such a great thing to talk about, especially for someone who's new. One of the things I've encountered with people that I've been teaching production to is just how overwhelming it is. And it's even overwhelming for me as a teacher, because I have this huge amount of knowledge in my head, and it's like, where do you begin? Like, how do you boil that down so that it's digestible and not overwhelming for them? And so it's just a lot to process. And so I've been thinking about how I could start my own video series, focus on various bite-sized topics to help somebody really get started and really produce their first song. Because at the end of the day, it's just a lot of very simple things that makes it so overwhelming and complicated. Like, no individual element in Logic Pro is that difficult. It's not like you have to perform calculus to add a plugin. You know, you don't have to know physics
Thankfully.
to
I wouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't be doing it if I had to do that. So
It's like you don't need to know physics in order to record your guitar or your voice or whatever. So it's not that any one particular feature is that complicated, but I think what happens is like you start stacking those. There's literally like thousands of features that Logic has, and that's where people get sort of decision paralysis. Or there's just things they don't know because they're not readily obvious. I just feel really passionate and just called to share what I know in that kind of a way. And I think it could complement the actual one-on-one sessions that I do with people, because they could take advantage of these videos, and then that could be a great way for us to have a great lesson, to focus on particular things that were covered in that video, and then walk them towards the ultimate goal of producing that song. So that's something going into 2025 that I'm really focused on and excited to dive deeper into.
that's really cool, by the way. I can't wait
thanks.
to see. I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Thank
That'll be
you.
cool. The second thing I want to try this coming year is I want to play more live performances. So I'm doing a lot of stuff in the studio, but I want to get out more and play live. I've recently been getting together with some friends. We've been dabbling with some covers and things like that, and that's inspired me to try to get it together on that front and not go crazy, but play out a little more, see some of the local venues, meet other musicians, collaborate with people.
My cat just showed up.
Oh.
Almost got him. We almost got a cameo here. Might. He's still close by. I got him. We have a special guest today.
What do you have to say for yourself, Kat? Go ahead.
This is Huey. Let me go. He hates to be held, as you can tell. He's like squirming around. But he just brought me his favorite toy, which is Mousy. He does that at least once a day. So thank you, buddy.
It's a call to action.
Yes. He's the best hunter in the house.
Enough of this
All
podcasting business. Play with Mousy.
He's like, let me go.
So
Anyway.
anyways, yeah, that's my second. How about you?
I realized recently just how much stuff I have, both digitally and hardware. And I just feel like there's such an opportunity for me to explore what I already have. I honestly don't think there's any need whatsoever to to buy anything else unless there's a really compelling reason. I have, for instance, Native Instruments Complete, and that is just a universe of different instruments and sounds, like guitars, keyboards, synthesizer sounds, you name it, drums. There's so much in there. And I think I just have an opportunity not only to just explore that, but organize it or catalog it. I'm not sure the right nomenclature is, but just become more aware of like what I have available to me in a way where it's usable. Like it's a waste of time to go through it and be like, oh, this is cool. Wow, I have a lot of stuff. But that's what's the point of doing that if you can't 3 months later be like, I need this kind of sound? And you have a sense of, or a resource rather, of here are some sounds that would be perfect for XYZ application. So just getting better at knowing what I already own. And I think there's also an opportunity. I think it's just laziness that I don't use hardware more. Like, it's just so easy to drop a plugin into a track. There's just so much to be had with tapping into real hardware, synthesizers, and so forth. Your brain works differently. The tactile kind of experience just produces something different. So I think there's an opportunity there, just in terms of how I work in the studio. I think that there's an opportunity for more inspiration and creativity.
If you find a way to catalog that sea of stuff to where it's accessible, that would be some good knowledge.
Oh, man. Yeah. What's so intimidating for me is just the time. Oh, I have 500 samples of X, and I'm going to go through it. But Yeah, and there's like literally stuff that I have that I've never used because there's so much of it. And maybe it's something, I don't know, brass, for example. Like I don't really necessarily use that stuff, but who knows? I might get a client that's like, hey, I want to do a big band
Yeah.
kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. No,
So that's one thing. Another thing, I just thought of this that I'd like to do that I'm very scared to do, but I think that means I should do it.
So is this number 3?
This is number 3.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to try to just reach out to another artist and say, hey, do you want to collaborate? I really like your style. I like the kind of music you do. Here's what I do. No pressure, no expectations, just like a way to make new friends and acquaintances and connections and so forth. There's an artist on Instagram that I follow that I'm like, this guy, if he and I lived close to each other, we'd be like best friends. Like we like all the same movies and same bands and same types of music and stuff. And so I'm like, why not? So that's something I want to do. And I think that there's probably so much more opportunity for that. And I know if somebody reached out to me, I'd be like falling off the chair. I'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that's great. My third one is similar in a way because it involves others. I don't know if I mentioned, next year, 2025, will be the 25th anniversary of Bozic Voice Studio, of my teaching.
Wow, yeah.
So it's a big year. There's going to be, hopefully, a lot of action around here with regards to that. I'm hoping to hold some special events throughout the year. One of the things that I really love is working on original music with students and encouraging and inspiring all of that. So I was thinking about maybe having either some sort of special studio class or maybe a series of classes or whatever where we could just dabble a little bit with songwriting and maybe we could all try different songwriting goals. Like you have a week to write this kind of song, something like that. So I was thinking about maybe throwing in some kind of special things like that. Maybe have some special guests come into the studio class. Perhaps maybe you could come to one of the studio classes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I was just thinking that. And I think we've talked about it before a little bit, but I would love to do just like an hour-long sort of, quote, masterclass on like even like showcasing like an example. Here's the song in its initial form, and here's how I produced it into a full production for release, how it started and how it ended up kind of thing. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So stuff like that.
Yeah.
Aside from special performances, I want to be able to do that kind of thing this year because songwriting was something that was part of what I did as a musician from literally the day I got my first instrument. I didn't know how to play it, so I started making stuff up on it right away.
Right.
So it holds a special place in my heart. But there you go. So there we go. We have 3 things each of us have listed as things we want to try to accomplish in the coming year. How about you, listener? What things do you want to accomplish? Perhaps you can share some of that on social media or just take note for yourself so you can be productive in the coming year.
Yeah, I think that's a great place for us to wrap things up here for today. And I just want to end by saying once again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening to our podcast. And Rich, thank you, my friend, for being a part of this journey with me. And it's just been an amazing experience to work on this podcast, see it grow, and just come up with new crazy ideas, whether it's sacrificing goats or talking about AI or whatever. It's been amazing. So thank you for that.
Yes, I want to also thank everyone for tuning in. And we hope that you're getting something out of this, as we might have talked about this before, but we oftentimes, Justin and I, because we're really good buddies and we've known each other for a long time, we get together and talk shop all the time. And so we're like, why don't we start a podcast and maybe get a little more organized about this and be able to get together on a regular basis and continue the conversations, but be able to share with others. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Justin, as well, for being so committed to the process and providing such great information, and also just being such a good friend. And I love talking to you. So this is awesome.
Likewise. All right, everybody, have a safe and happy holiday season. We will be back in January to kick off the new year. We will see you in 2025. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Face Your Ears podcast. If you found this episode entertaining and informative, be sure to share and leave a review. Also, check us out on social media and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For more information related to our podcast, head on over to www.faceyourears.com. Links can be found in the show description. And remember, whether you're a musician just starting out or a seasoned professional looking to talk shop, it's time to face your ears.